Hi, welcome to ORFanID. This video is going to show you how to use the ORFanID search system. ORFanID is a web-based software engine that identifies orphan genes from the genomes of specified species or from a given list of DNA sequences. To use the search system, simply come to our website and click Get Started on the home page. It takes you right to the search system. Even if you don't have a gene sequence or an accession number to search for, you can still use the system to see how it works. We've got 4 samples represented by these 4 icons in the bottom left-hand corner of the search screen. Simply click on one of them and it will populate one of the fields with a gene sequence or an accession number, and you can hit search and see what happens. You also have the choice to search, for example, a Homo sapiens sample by gene sequence, notice that's selected here with this little toggle switch, or you can search by accession. When I change the toggle switch to accession and click Homo sapien again, rather than a gene sequence, an accession number is put in this field. But let's actually go through step by step and put some data in these fields to see what it would look like. There are 3 ways to do a search on ORFanID. The first is you can upload a FASTA file. Uploading proceeds just like uploading files to any other website. Pretty straightforward. The second way you can search is by using an accession number or set of accession numbers. For example, when I click the E. coli sample, you'll notice that there are 3 accession numbers that are entered. And the pop-up dialog box tells you need to separate the accession numbers by a comma. The third way that you can search is by submitting an actual gene sequence or sequences. If I change this to sequence and click E. coli again, you'll notice that I have 3 gene sequences. There's one, here's a second, and here's a third. If you search for multiple gene sequences at once, you need to separate them by a new line or space between each one like you see here. Now, once you've selected which of the 3 search styles you're going to use, you also have to select an organism. This field auto-populates as you type, like so. Now, what do you do if the organism that you're trying to search for isn't in this drop-down menu? In that case, you need to go to the NCBI taxonomy database and try to find the full scientific name and the taxonomy ID of the organism you're searching. Go ahead and come back here, type it in, and make sure you put the taxonomy ID in parentheses like so. Once you've got these 3 items, you're close to being ready to do your search. Now, there are a couple other things on the page I want to show you. Obviously, you can search by protein or by gene. As you see here, select the appropriate radio selection box. You'll notice there's an email field in the upper left-hand corner. All this field does is to give you some way to recognize your search results. So for example, if I was to run this search, my results would pop up on the Results tab. And whatever email I put in will be listed in this column. This solely exists to let you identify your search along with everyone else's so it doesn't get lost. If you don't put an email in, all that will be submitted will be orfanid@gmail.com by default. So you don't have to put an email in. And you can put in any kind of email that you want as long as it's a legitimate email, and that will let you recognize your search. You will not be emailed anything, you won't get a prompt by email, and we do not collect your information. So I've put in my gene sequence to search, I've selected the right organism, I have put in a temporary email, and all I have to do now is make sure that I've got my advanced parameters set if I want to set them. By the way, just a little bit of a help in case you get an error. This little toggle switch needs to be properly set, as I mentioned. So for example, if you're doing a gene sequence, make sure it's set to sequence. If you're searching by accession number, make sure it's set to accessions, or you'll get a little error. Lastly, there are advanced parameters. There are 3 of them. You can leave the defaults as they are, or you can set these to your liking. So we've got the maximum E value for the BLAST algorithm. And there is a pop-up that gives you a little bit more information about this. That's currently set to 3. There is the maximum target sequences, and that is currently set to 550. And finally, identity is set to 60. You can set these however you want. Now, if the results come back and are a little unexpected or maybe empty, you can come back and modify these if you've changed them, set them to your liking. But once you've got these set, once you've got your search method selected, the right organism, an email if you want one, and these 2 fields are set properly, you are ready to go. Come here and click Submit. This pop-up is just an option for you to say, oh wait, I want to go back and change something, or no, let's go ahead and proceed. Hit Submit if you're ready to proceed, and you get an acknowledgement saying that your search has been submitted. Now, this could take 3 to 5 to 15 minutes depending on what you submit, or if you submit multiple sequences or accession numbers. You're taken to the Results tab. While you wait, you'll see something like this, a light green box saying that your search is processing. Once it's done, it'll be dark green. To see your results, click the little graph icon in the far right of the results table. So let's talk about what we've got here in our results. The upper left-hand region of the results page are just some parameters. This is an E. coli. You get a unique analysis ID for each search. This was a protein. And there were 3 settings for our advanced parameters that we set. In the upper right-hand corner, you get a little graph showing you where your results landed if you get any back. We had 3 genes in our search, and so they show up like so. There was 1 genus-restricted gene, as you can see here, and there were 2 strict orphan genes that were found. And you'll see on the x-axis the level of restriction that it's at. In the lower region of the page, you get a table. We had 3 genes in our search, and so they're stacked by 3 here. 1 of them was a genus-restricted gene, and 2 were strict orphans. Now, if you find an orphan gene, you will not get this little icon. Let's go ahead and click on it. This is a taxonomy tree showing homology evidence, right? So if one of the genes that I was searching, or something that I was searching, has similarities in other organisms, that will show up in a sort of tree like this. It could be very complicated depending on how many similarities there are out there. If you get something that's super complicated, you can simplify the tree by clicking the nodes, like so. Now, if you get a strict orphan, obviously, this is the whole point here, you're not going to have these similarities, so there won't be a tree per se. There would just be a straight line, and there's no point in creating a tree graphically, so you'll get a blank space. So if you have an orphan, a strict orphan, that will correspond with the blank spaces here. If you have something that's not a strict orphan, you'll get the graphic. At the bottom of the page, you get your BLAST results that you can download or save. And that's everything for the most part. You do have another option here in the horizontal menu to look at ORFanBase. This is a database of findings that we're collecting. And so you can go through. It's much like the results page. You can click the little icons on the right to see what folks have found over the course of the last few months. On the whole, however, you've seen how the system works. Please contact us if you have suggestions or questions on how we can improve our system. We're working on the hardware to speed up searches, but we hope this helps you. Good luck hunting, and contact us or wait for the next video.